back. Listen, as y'all can see, I'm a busy man. This is my third show today. But hey, the draft is in 4 days, so I can rest when everything is done. No rest for the weary, but I'm pleased to be joined by a guy that is well respected in the Ravens community, especially when it comes to this here NFL draft and the Baltimore Ravens. My guy Yuri, host of the Ravens Way podcast. What's up, Yuri? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm ready. This is what we wait for, is what we build up for really since the late December is that's when you start thinking about the draft, and you go in the process, you start evaluating prospects, and we're here. It's draft week. It really is. It's NFL fan Christmas, at least for me.
Yep.
My favorite time of the off season, my favorite time really in the NFL in general is the draft. I love the process so much, and I'm glad, thankful you had me on,
Yeah.
and I look forward to get into it with you.
Yes, sir, man. Look, um, obviously, I hadn't gotten a chance to talk to you. I know it was a very disappointing end to the Ravens season. Go 14-3, make it to the AFC Championship game, and then they lose that game. What was your biggest takeaway from that game? Like after the game ended, obviously in disappointment. What was the thing that you said? Okay, in order for us to get back, we need to do what?
So I was at the game. Thankfully, the tickets weren't mine, so I didn't have the $570 attachment to the loss with it.
Oh,
But I would say that you know there was obviously some execution errors. The Zay Flowers fumble,
yeah,
interception as well in the triple coverage. The Ravens probably had a couple of chances to at least make that game a little more competitive, maybe swing the momentum back their way. But my main takeaway from that game really is that in order for us to get back to that moment, and not only get back to that moment, but not be on the same end the next time around, I
right.
really think it's going to be redefining the pass offense and adding more playmakers and better pass protectors. And I'm pretty set on that. The Ravens just had a triple crown defense,
Yeah.
and they certainly did their job in terms of limiting Mahomes and the amount of points they scored. But I think when it gets down to it, and you get in these postseason games, and you have these quarterbacks that can really sling the football around the field. I kind of want that on my. I want the when it gets down to it's third and goal. I want the defense to not know where it's coming from.
Okay.
I want to be able to sit there. I want to go five wide. I want to be able to have the five guys up front be able to hold up in pass protection, and I want the receivers to be able to get open. So I think that's really my main takeaway is the next time we're in that game, to have another winner on the outside as a receiver, and
Mhm.
hopefully, obviously they gutted the offensive line, have better pass protectors as well. I think that's really my main takeaway.
Agree. So would you say you're in the minority of the fans who say the Ravens need to run the ball more in the playoffs, or do you feel like it just needs to be more balanced?
I'm probably in the minority. I think they do need to throw the football. I mean, I think the Lamar 2019 game, they threw the football like 43, 44 times, and
Mhm.
obviously the receivers dropped the ball. And this past game against the Chiefs, it seems like a common theme, at least in my opinion, in the John Harbaugh era, is when they get to the playoffs, they like throwing the football. Joe Flacco during that playoff run, and those balance. Don't get me wrong, those balance, but Joe Flacco was averaging like 35, 36 pass attempts a game. So I'm probably in the minority. I think that passing offense wins championships, and in terms of attempts, uh, almost like exclusively all the past like 10 Super Bowl winners have been
Yeah.
top 10 passing offense in volume, just strictly volume, not
Hmm.
efficiency, not EPA, not all that stuff, just volume. So
Yeah.
I would say that in order for the Ravens, now obviously balance is great, and Derrick Henry can do a lot of things for you, and Lamar Jackson already does a lot of things for you in the run game. But I would definitely say that in order for us to get over the hump, I think our passing offense needs to be at least top half of the league in volume, just strictly volume, because we've been bottom 5, 10. I would say like under Lamar, we've been bottom 10
Yeah.
every year without a doubt.
No, agree. And then also there's this aspect of you don't throw it a lot during the regular season, and then you try to throw it a lot during the playoffs, and you don't have the reps, right? And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, you're expecting something to just happen magically that you didn't work on during the season, and then you're wondering why the pass is just a little off, or the receivers are dropping the ball, is because they're not used to that sheer volume that they get in the postseason that they just weren't getting in the regular season. So that's actually a good point. Obviously they brought Derrick Henry in, and they are going to run the football a lot, you know. But that should make the passing game easier because when you have Derrick Henry in the backfield, Lamar Jackson, that's going to bring 8, 9 in the box. Safeties are going to have to creep up to try to help stop the run, which means now our receivers just have to win on the outside in one-on-one coverage, right? And they just got to beat man coverage outside. And it reminds me a lot of the Titans around 2019 when A.J. Brown was there with Derrick Henry. Defenses had to pay so much attention to Henry. A.J. Brown was just eating on slants and digs and post routes. He was having a field day. And hopefully a guy like Zay Flowers and any other addition that we bring can also add to that. What do you think about Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews and those guys being used together? It seems like they can only be used one at a time.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, I think 12 personnel, especially this last year, I felt like 12 personnel was a very efficient offense. I felt like they could have used more and
Yeah,
set up play action and maybe help the run game just a little bit because we didn't have the best running backs, especially towards the back end of the season. But with this year, you have Derrick Henry, and we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens with the offensive line if they really do invest a lot in it. Even
yeah,
then, you have rookies stepping in, and those guys aren't always going to be up to speed right away. So maybe early on they use more 12 personnel. But in terms of just strictly the tight ends and the skill group, there has been a lot of times in the past where um, not both tight ends are always eating. It feels like it's always going to be one or the other. I mean, you have Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, and even then, that only worked for such a limited amount of time. But like, it's just I'm not. We've already had the likely wide receiver 2 experience,
yeah.
and we've already had the Mark Andrews wide receiver 1 experience. So I think the best. I still think the best foot going forward is 11 personnel and having 3 receivers on the field. I don't think the goal should be to flood the middle of the field, get two tight end receiving threats out there, and consistently target those guys. I think the reason why Monken was brought in was so that he could spread the field and basically learn a basketball offense and let Lamar be point guard. And I still believe in that theory. I mean, that theory, even the Ravens didn't throw the football a lot last year. That theory really did help them with a lot of their in season success. And of course, in the playoffs, they kind of went back to back to the middle of the field stuff and let Lamar run a lot more. And but yeah, I would say I'm a little cautious on the we need to get Mark and Likely involved. I agree with that. I think they're both great playmakers, but in terms of sustained success, I don't know in historically that's ever really happened.
Right, right. I think people see what Kelsey does for Mahomes, and it's easy to draw that conclusion and says, well, we need to do that, right? Now Kelsey is a rare breed, and not to say Mark Andrews isn't as well, because he's an all-pro tight end, and I honestly feel like Mark is the second best tight end in the league. I think Kelsey's one, I think Mark's two, and then I would probably put Kittle at 3. Kittle's a better blocker, but if you're talking about just the all-around package as a receiver and everything, I think Mark is definitely number 2. So that kind of brings us into present day, 4 days away, NFL draft. Now you're a draft guy, right? And I've known that since I've known you. What 2 years ago? It seems like it's so
Yeah.
crazy. It's like 2 years ago. We met on Spaces on Twitter, and we've been talking draft ever since. And you're someone who I respect your opinion on the draft because I know you do your work, right? I know you watch film. I know you know the prospects, and so even if we have different opinions, I know you've done the work. And so my question is, for such a young guy, how did you get into the draft? And like, what was that moment for you where you was like, I love this, like, and I want to do this?
So I would say it started like I want to say 2021.
Hmm.
Um, right around when I turned 18.
Okay.
Um, I don't like when people like speak for me, and so when the draft will come around, you have these analysts up there, right? And they're
Yeah.
telling you what to think, basically. Kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
they kind of tell you what to think, and it's not so much of the information, and you get to interpret it. They're
Right.
already interpreting the information, so I'm like, you know what? I want to know the information. I'd rather know the information and interpret for myself, and then hear what they have to say and kind of bounce back off that instead of it going the other way around where it's bounced off them to me.
Agreed.
So I would say right around 2021, that's when I'm like, like let me look into this. Let me see what like what the information is about. I wasn't really super into the film yet. I was just like, let me just read the prospects. Let me just
Right.
go on TDN or PFF or wherever and just look up the prospects, see what they're about. And then I realized I'm like, well, if these guys can form opinions and half the time they're wrong, why can't I form an opinion?
Exactly.
Um,
They get
so I'm
paid
like,
wrong.
I know exactly. So I'm like, well, if I'm wrong, no one's paying me to do it, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So I would definitely say around 2022 is when I fully like went into it, started watching film, started looking at different analytics for people, and all those things. I would say around then is really when I started to fall in love with the process.
Yeah.
It's not always. I feel a lot of time, we're always wrapped up around the end result, but man, it's the process of the draft that really gives me satisfaction of just like, you're going through the what's the guy's name, caddy cut ups
Yeah.
list,
Shout
and
out to
you
Petty
see, yeah, you see, yeah. Shout out to him. Shout out to him. Been
Cup.
following him for a long time. Um,
Mhm.
and you see a prospect on there, and you're like, man, I've seen a couple guys. I've seen a couple people talk about this guy. Like,
Yeah.
let me just watch one game, put it on 2 times speed, just see what they're talking about, and then you go from there. And then 3 months later, this guy's being talked about as a top 50 prospect. When 2 months ago, he's being talked about as like a fourth round guy. Like
Mhm.
that's where I find the satisfaction of like being there in early January, uh, middle February, and you find somebody, you identify them, and as time goes on, they start moving up. You're like, hey, maybe I like this thing. Like maybe I like the idea. Maybe not the idea of being right, but the idea of like identifying
Yeah. Talent.
someone talented and then
Uh-huh.
watching them go up the ranks as time goes on. So
Yeah.
that's really the almost a selling point for me is
Yeah.
like being there. Like for example, this year, like Troy Fatsanu in January, he was like a 30th to 35th pick, and I'm like every time I watch him, like this guy's like top 15 without a doubt.
Yep.
Like at the latest.
Hmm.
And there's plenty other names I can throw out there that I was like way back in January. I'm like, wow, like this guy,
Yeah.
why are we talking about this guy when this guy's kind of better?
Yeah.
So
Right. Right. Exactly.
yeah, that's really I would say back in 2021 is when I got started. 2022 is when I fell in love, and 2023 is when I felt like I had my like I'm trying to think of the word for it, like the all of
Your-
it coming together, the
Yeah.
relative athletic scores, the film, the
Yeah.
analytics, being able to put it all into one and being able to like process all three and spit it out in like a
Yeah.
coherent way. So
That's I mean that's awesome. I mean, you're right. Like I remember telling people about Troy Furtado last year during the college season, and I was like, man, this kid is great. And
and hey, shout out to Victor too. Shout out to Victor.
yeah, and when people were saying, "Oh no, he's a guard," I'm like, no. This guy can play tackle. Yeah, he might not look the prototypical size of a Jonathan Ogden or a Joe Thomas or how we were used to looking at tackles, but we also have to understand the game is different as well. The game is much different than when those guys played. So everything is played in space now, right? Offenses are looking to move and throw the ball laterally as much as they are vertically. And so you need guys that can move. And to me, I think he can be, I believe he can definitely be a Pro Bowl guard, but I wouldn't put it past him being a Pro Bowl tackle as well. If you need him to play tackle, he's definitely a tackle. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's exactly why I love the draft is that I started watching the draft as a little kid and just like I would just consume as much of it as I could. Like I would watch, like back then it was more than 3 days. I think it was like the draft was like 5 days. It was like a whole week, and they would start early in the morning, right, and then go throughout the day. And I would just watch every round, every single pick, and I was just so enamored with the way Mel Kiper could break down every single prospect. It doesn't matter how far away, how small the school. I mean, it was amazing. You could just mention some kid from a school you never even heard of, and he not only knows who the kid is, but he also has a backstory about the kid. I thought that was amazing. And then I used to buy these pro football draft guides. They used to sell. They still do sell them. They sell them at the bookstore and stuff like that. And because you didn't have YouTube, right? You just couldn't just go to YouTube and just look up a prospect. You had to read about them. And so that's where my love for it came. And then it just kind of grew and grew as I got older, as more information became available. And then now I'm all in, right? I go to the Senior Bowl, I go to the East West, the Combine, I'm everywhere. And it's because I want to be able to get all the information to be able to give an educated response or an opinion about a player. And I think you said it perfectly. There's a gratification to it when you say, "Hey, I think this guy is good," and maybe it's not a consensus, and then he turns out to be good, and you're like, see, I was on that, right?" Because ESPN is more of a group thing, right? Like you said, they want to tell you what to think. They want to tell you, "Hey, this is who is good, and this is who's not good," and you're supposed to just go with that. So, 100% agree with that. So, all right, so the number 2 prospect in this draft, by many people, is either Jaden Daniels or Drake May, right? Now, you are, for anyone who follows Yuri on Twitter, he's a huge UNC fan. So how did you become a UNC fan? What's the backstory of that?
So I want to say, well, one, my prospect rankings a little crazy, but in terms of becoming a UNC fan, so I say when I was up until I was around I want to say 14.
Okay.
I was a Maryland Terps fan.
Okay.
And so I still follow them. I still keep up with them. But I had a lot of family from North Carolina, from Raleigh, around that area. And I went down there one time, and I got to visit the football field. They bought me all UNC gear. I think at the time there was I got a Sam Howell shirt. It was like all types of stuff. Yeah. And as time went on, and it really wasn't about like the success of the Maryland program or anything, because UNC football has not been that successful either. But I fell in love. I fell in love with the colors. I fell in love with the Tar Heel, like that. That really resonated with me. And then I started watching UNC basketball, and they've always had a good team.
Right.
And so those two kind of came together. And I mean, the story, is just it was just family. It was timing. I still follow. I feel like with college football, college basketball, there's nothing wrong. Like you can have a main team, but if you have another team with them, it's not a big deal. There's 128
thousands of teams
in Division I. You know what I mean? Like it's not a big deal. It's not like there's 32 teams in the NFL and you have to pick one. There's 100. There's 5 times more. So that's kind of where it came from for me. It was like the family, the colors, the resonation, like the spirit behind the school. So many great players have played at UNC for both basketball and football. You have Julius Peppers, Lawrence Taylor, Michael Jordan. I mean, the quarterback Drake May has had like 4 family members come through there. All as Division I athletes. So
Stackhouse was there. Vince Carter. Did you say Vince Carter?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Joey Stackhouse. All right, so you kind of hinted at it. How do you have this year's draft class of quarterbacks? How do you have them ranked?
So, I mean, obviously, I am a UNC fan, and right. I really do try and exclude bias out of my
opinions.
Yeah, but I think when it comes down to it, I think it's more of a 1A 1B thing. But I do have Drake May as 1A, Caleb Williams as 1B, and then 2 would be Jaden Daniels, 3 would be JJ McCarthy, 4 would be Penix, 5 would be Nix, and then after that you probably have Rattler,
right?
And the rest, Pratt and Travis and all those other guys just mixed in there. But yeah, I feel like, and it's I feel like with every quarterback, especially the ones that come from UNC and the Zach Wilsons, like they're a pro style quarterback. But I feel like with Drake May, It's the combination of his pocket awareness with the ability to, he drifts in the pocket and sometimes um, creates additional throwing lanes while drifting in the pocket, along with his ability to throw the football downfield. Um, it all comes together in one, and it's Caleb Williams is certainly
Yeah,
a great prospect, and I won't sit here and say he's a bust or anything because I think that's ridiculous. I think he's a great prospect, and I think any team would be happy with either quarterback. To be completely honest with you, I
yeah,
think that some of the late overthink that's going on around Drake May is just it's prospect fatigue, in my opinion. But
I agree. I agree.
I just I like both of them. I end up, and I promise you, it isn't because I'm a Tar Heel fan, because
Yeah,
I would if Mitchell Trubisky was Drake May, I would tell you.
yeah,
But they're not remotely close, and
right.
I just think some of the post snap processing
Yeah,
from May just gives me
yeah,
the little edge over Williams. I feel like Williams post snap, and you saw it in the Notre Dame 2023 game.
mhm.
Um, and of course, USC's offense is one of the worst offenses you can play in my
Jesus.
opinion. I have problems with it. I have severe
Mhm.
problems with it, but that's another topic. Um, but I feel like a lot of the times, sometimes he'd be a little late to
Yeah,
reads, getting through his reads. Post snap, now pre snap, he's great.
yeah,
He'll if he sees someone open, he'll get it off quick.
yeah.
But post snap, once we're talking about 2.5 seconds after the ball is snapped, I feel like
Mhm.
that's when you start to see Caleb maybe struggle just a tiny bit in post snap processing. But the nice thing about that is you can always make better decisions.
Right, right,
That's not an unfixable thing.
right.
So yeah, that's kind of that's how they have the quarterbacks shaking out.
So I'm
And
right there with you, actually. I don't have May number one, but the way I'll rank the top five quarterbacks. So for me, it's Caleb Williams one, it's Drake May two, it's JJ McCarthy three, and then Jaden Daniels four, and then five is Penix, right? And like you said, I do think it's fatigue. I mean, this time last year, everybody's saying Caleb and Drake May are 1-2, right? It's kind of like the draft back when it was Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. It's Lawrence is Fields, and then all of a sudden the draft comes, and here comes what's his name, Zach Wilson out of nowhere, right? Because he had a good year during COVID, and all of a sudden we just forgot all the tape from the past 2 years prior to that season. Like I just don't like. I agree that the most recent film is important because it's the most recent film, but it's like it seems like sometimes we just disregard all the film that happened before that. And to me, all of that makes up the pie. And Drake May had the year before had one of the best seasons of any college quarterback in like ever, right? And had it not been for Caleb Williams having an even better season, he might have won a Heisman, right? And so, and even in the down year this year, people say, well, Caleb had a down year or Drake May had a down year. And I'm like, hold up. Caleb Williams threw for over 3,500 yards, had 30 touchdowns and 5 picks, and 3 of those picks came in one game against Notre Dame. So, like, where's the down year? Yeah, he had some down games, but I don't think he had a down year. And he had the worst defense in the country. His offensive line was terrible. There's not one prospect on that team that's a projected first round pick in this draft besides Caleb Williams. So
yeah,
that tells you everything you needed to know about that. And then Drake May lost so much talent in the draft before when he lost Josh Downs. He lost some other guys up front, and you saw it, right? I don't even think he did. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tez Walker didn't play the beginning of the season, right? Because he had to get a clearance or something before he was eligible to play. So he didn't even have a big time receiver the whole season. And so I think it's kind of like what you saw with Will Levis, where once the talent left, he felt like he had to put the Superman cape on, and he had to be more than what he had to be or what he needs to be, and that kind of leads into mistakes. All right, so give me before we get into this mock, give me your favorite prospects in this draft. Give me 5. It could be any position.
so I would go Malik Mustafa, safety from Wake Forest.
Yeah, he a dog.
Um, I've been on him since February, and of course now here we go, getting late hype on him, and he's gonna
Mm-hmm.
go. He's gonna go a little more ahead than where I was hoping he'd fall to. I
Had to
hope
get pushed up too high.
everyone wouldn't see that he would run downhill like a maniac and destroy people. I was hoping no one saw that, but everyone sees it.
Right.
So
He
he's
must
one.
have Cam Chancellor a little bit. Got a little Cam Chancellor to him.
Yeah. The other one, another one is Max Melton from Rutgers. I like his explosiveness. He tested very, very well, and he's lined up inside plenty of times against JSN back in 2022.
Yes.
And he held his own. So I like him. I like his quickness. I like his ability to play inside and outside. I really do. I don't think the 5 foot. I think he's 5'11". He's 5'11" flat almost. So
Okay.
I'm not worried about that. Plenty of 5'11" corners I can go off the top of my head that played outside in the cornerback in the NFL have been fine. Number 3, I'm trying to get deep in my bag here.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I'm trying to stick away from the corners and the safeties because I do the late day 2, early day 3 range. I love so many cornerbacks and safeties there.
Saying this weak corner class, and I'm like, no, there might not be the stars at the top like normal, but this isn't a weak corner class at all.
No. This is, and maybe this is a hot take. This class trumps last year's class by a lot in terms of just pure talent. I mean, maybe not as deep as last year.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably is deep as last year. Maybe
it's
more
deep. Yeah.
But I really, this class, I have so many guys that are just highly rated, and I just
you just don't have the stars of last year because last year,
Gonzalez
and all those guys.
Yeah, they do have the offensive stars there. They do have the offense, but it's not receivers and there's receivers, but it's a whole bunch of tackles. It's a whole bunch of those really are the stars of the class.
Those are the stars of this draft. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course that doesn't get as much love as the corners and the Will Andersons and the going to my number 3, I would probably say it's tough because I have these guys so closely rated, but. I probably would say Cooper Bebe from Kansas State. I mean, he can do what you need him to do. He can play gap. He can play zone. He's physical. I like his pass protection chops. And I'm trying to stray away from my list I put out earlier because I saw you retweeted, and I don't want to stick to that. I don't want to stick to that list. Okay. I will throw out there, and I'm not going to count this towards my 5, but my number 1 prospect in this class is Malik Neighbors. I think he is a special, unreal football player. I think come draft night, a franchise will be changed if he goes somewhere that isn't already like established. Like if he goes to Chicago, I think he'll do fine. But if he goes somewhere like the Chargers, where he's going to be the number 1 right away, or even the Giants, even though Jalen, I don't have a lot of faith in Daniel Jones. I think he's that good of a player where you can just go like that and
I would love to see him with Herbert in LA. That would be bad.
That. But my number 4 officially, I would probably say trying to stick to different positions here. I would say, I mean, you can't go wrong with Ladd McConkey. I mean, you really can't. He does. He can play. He can play the Z. He can play slot. He's got good route running. He runs a 4.39. Short area quickness. I mean, he really has all you would want in a good receiver. He may not be a home run, but he certainly is a double. He's certainly a double or a triple in terms of hitting a pick. I just feel like you pick him, you're going to get a good player. And sometimes you over project, you under project. Yeah. With him, it feels like you get him, he's going to be good. You're not. I mean, if you need a receiver, he'll provide. Then I would say the last one, and we're talking favorite prospects.
Favorite guys. Some Yuri guys.
Okay. Man, we're getting. I'm gonna get deep in the bag here.
Okay.
D. Cameron Richardson from Mississippi State. He's 6'2".
Yeah.
I like he reminds me a lot of Martin Emerson, who was another my guy 2 years ago. Yeah. That I was ready to rush the stadium at 45 for him. He's just another one of those Mississippi State corners, like Forbes, like Martin Emerson. Just this outside innate ability to be able to stay outside and off zone, and really, I mean, just track the football down and make plays in the football. He's another guy, a late riser. PFF didn't even have him at all until a week, like 5 days ago. So that would probably round out my 5. Trying to get a little more creative than the list I put out earlier, but there's so many. There's so many. I really do love this draft, and I think that a lot of teams are going to walk away happy.
Yeah, it's a great draft. Real quick, before we get into this, if you could look in the camera and talk to EDC, and you knew he was listening, what would you tell him to do at pick 30? Like, what advice would you give EDC to say, hey, look, man, this is what we need to do at pick 30? What would you say?
If he's listening, I would say, let's see. I'm trying to be a little parable, but also a little serious. I would say that what do you envision that player doing this year, next year, and 3 years down the line, and also what's the fit of that player? What's the athletic upside of that player? Can you envision that player ever being a top 20, 25 player at their position?
Yeah.
If not, and you're at the end of the first round, what do you have to lose in terms of picking a player like that?
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, some of the players in the past they've picked, you have your Hollywood Brown, who he was kind of like a safer floor type guy. He was never going to be higher upside, and you have your Patrick Queens, who end up, they're a little raw, but they end up developing and they get paid $13 million a year. And of course that takes time. So how do you weigh those two things out? How do you find the nice middle ground of a good football player who also has good upside, like Zay Flowers, who's in my opinion was like a perfect pick. Good floor. You knew he could come make an impact, but a couple years down the line, this guy could be a really good football player. So, I guess my if I put it in one sentence, pick the best athlete. That would as athletes dominate football. All the top positions, all those guys are great athletes, and you cannot go. I feel like you really cannot go wrong with taking a great athlete. And at the end of the day, you miss. I don't think that should stop you. I mean, there's so much out there, and Math Bomb, the guy who does the RAS thing every year, he's put out a lot of studies about how the top performers at every position, man, they're at least a certain benchmark of relative athletic score. They hit certain combine numbers. And sometimes there are outliers, and you can take a swing on an outlier like a Kyle Hamilton, and you can hit. But I feel like at the end of the day, if I had to put it in one sentence, take the best athlete, and I think everything else will fall in place. So,
okay, would you trade up or would you trade back if you had a choice?
If I didn't know the players available, it really would be so nice to see a tackle slip and them go up for him. Yeah. But I just think it's the draft, and that's what happens. Good receivers, good tackles, and good corners go early and often. Yep. And when it comes around to our pick, I would probably say trade back and see if we can get another top 100 pick. If we can't, I wouldn't trade back. I think I would stick there.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, let's get into this mock draft. Yuri, I'm gonna give you the first pick.
Okay.
And then you can. I want you to make the pick and then explain your reasoning, and then we'll go on. We'll rotate. I'll take the second and third, and we'll just go back and forth.
Okay.
All right, let's get started here. And looks like everything's kind of going almost the way it could end up going realistically. All right, so as you can see here on the screen, you have Johnny Newton available, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Jackson Powers Johnson, Troy Franklin. Let's see what other players they got. So at receiver, we got Troy Ladd, Keon Coleman, Roman Wilson, Pearsall, Polk, Leggett, Corley, Burton. Then we go to the corners. You have Kool-Aid, Mike. I love Mike Sanders still, by the way. And it's Rakestraw Jr., TJ Tamba, Kamari Lassiter, Andrew Phillips. Then let's go to old tackle. We got Kieran Amagaji, Kingsley Somatea, Brandon Coleman, who's getting a lot of love now. I've always liked Brandon Coleman, but it seemed like people just woke up one morning and was like, oh yeah, Brandon Coleman's a good football player. Interior, obviously you got JPJ, Zach Frazier, Christian Haynes, and Cooper Beebe.
Cool. So my first thought here is we have Newton on the board and we have Penix on the board. I am curious on what these teams trading up are. Well, who are they? Are we allowed to trade back in this, or do we stick and pick?
Yeah, you can trade back.
Yeah. What does the trade tab say?
The trade value.
No. What is the two people trying to trade up, or at least it looks like it says two people.
Where's that? Let me see.
Next to draft a player, trade.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, 6 right here.
So we have 6 teams trying to move up.
Yeah.
So we have Arizona, and then who else? We got hit the down
Chargers.
bar. No, pop up other ones.
Yeah, Chargers, Titans, Raiders, Steelers, and Broncos.
Okay, so the
I would probably be interested in either 38 or 44 because the further away to pick, the more you can get, obviously.
Yeah, and we don't want to be unrealistic.
Yeah, right. And you don't want to go too far back, but at the same time, you want to go back where it's worth your while. If you go back to 35 with Arizona, you're going down 5 spots. I don't know what that would look like as far as what they would give up.
So I would say right here, and I know Jeff Rubeck did it in one of his mock drafts, but I'm probably going to trade back with the Raiders for 44 and 77.
Okay.
And then I'm going to toss in. What does it say? 81%. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of the value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine. We'll keep the extra random late picks.
Okay. Let me see. I just wanted to see. Oh, it probably would go up if we threw something in, I guess, huh? Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. 44.
Well, we're gonna say that is a huge spider. We're gonna say they're desperate for Penix. That's what we're gonna say. That
right.
They don't care
whenever you want a quarterback, you got to pay the tax anyway. So if it's anytime you're trading up for quarterback, you got to pay the tax. So that makes sense. All right, cool. So 44 and 77 for 30. We offer the trade, and it has been accepted. So we're gonna go back and resume the draft.
Now we're gonna get here,
All
and let's look at the tackles and look at the receivers.
All right, so it looks like Franklin, Coleman, Wilson, Pearsall, Leggett. Ooh, it looks good for us. Corley and Burton are all there. And then the tackles, we're looking at Magaji, Coleman, Fisher, Rosengarten, and Pooney.
All right, so we're definitely taking a receiver here. Matt, it right now in my head it's between Leggett and Coleman.
I agree.
And I originally was I was down Coleman, and then I was talking to Jason Huddle Up Films, and he brought up some interesting points about him. I went back and I'm like, if the narrative now around George Pickens is that he can't separate, but he still makes great plays, can Coleman be that guy? Can he be in that same mold of maybe not the greatest separator, but he when the ball's thrown his way, he comes down with it? I mean, the dude's ridiculous body control, and the way he, is just some of the catches Keon Coleman makes is ridiculous.
I think he's going to be a better pro than a college player because he had terrible quarterbacks to play with his entire career. And then if you look at there were games where he just absolutely dominated. If you go back and watch the LSU game, I think he had 166 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. He can be dominant, and I think he'll just only get better as he goes to the next level, especially once he gets better quarterback play. So I do like Coleman. And I think Leggett is a freak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Leggett, it's the same. I think Leggett. Well, first off, Keon Coleman, even though he didn't run a fast 40, he still clocked good enough times on GPS. So he isn't slow by any means.
No.
I also like Keon Coleman's blocking as well. I can't remember. I was watching one game the other day. I think it was the LSU game where he put the defensive back. He just put the guy on his backside. So.
Bro, he's everything the Ravens have been wanting since. Remember the year they tried to get Dez Bryant and the Cowboys jumped him? Like I feel like since Anquan Bolden and since back in the day when they tried to get Dez Bryant, they've been looking for that big body X receiver on the outside. They got the small jitterbug and Zay Flowers. I think Coleman would be the perfect running mate. I do love Xavier Legette, don't get me wrong, but Coleman is a little bit bigger. I think he's 6'3" and a half, and he can punish defenders and blocking. And I just think Lamar needs someone he could just throw jump balls to.
Yeah. Just to make sure I'm not overlooking anybody here. Let's take a quick look. Just to take a quick look at the defensive players available. I don't want to.
You want to look at what position? Corner.
Yeah, we'll look at corner.
Look at corner. So we got Saren there. Tampa's there. I know Saren still being here is definitely tempting. Tampa, because I actually said that in the space the other day. I said the closer we get to this draft, I feel like the Ravens could trade back and then take Mike Sanders still because he feels like a Raven, even though we don't really have an immediate need for that position because he's a nickel. But we will need him like in a year or so. And I mean, he could just be a luxury at this point. But we still got Kyrie, Kalen Carson, Max Melton, and Andrew Phillips.
Yeah, I think we're going to stick at one of the two receivers here. But I will say, we could draft a punter as well. I will say that Max Melton being there is surprising because I think one in these mocks he's starting to go around the range I think he's going to go, which is 35, 36 to Arizona or Washington, because the skill set's so rare. It really is. You don't have a lot of these. You have a bunch of tall and slow in this class, and you have a bunch of medium size, and you have two medium size and fast guys, and that's Phillips and Melton. So I think those guys' skill sets are going to get pumped up a little bit. But we're going to stick here with receiver, and I'm just.
I know.
I'm just waiting.
EDC and I got to pick between Legette and Coleman. I'm like, oh man. I mean, at that point, you kind of take a vote around the room and just be like, let's see where everybody stands on it. Because I feel like there's no wrong answer. But if you're asking me as your draft partner right now, I would say Coleman. I just love Coleman.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, I think what's going to make the decision here for me is. They both have great body control. I think we can both agree on that. They both
agree.
The ball's up in the air. They both high point it, and they do a very, very good job of that.
I knew he was coming. DMV talking about Legette. I knew he was going to say that. He loves Legette.
And then we're thinking about what are they doing at the top of the route. I feel like that's something that's really important to me is how are they hand fighting at the top of the route to create separation? Because sometimes guys. Create separation in different ways. It's not always just route running. Sometimes it is creating leverage with your hands and being able to push off without getting called for pass interference because a lot of that happens in the NFL and doesn't get called. So,
hey, think about this. Okay, so remember last year's draft, right? They only took Zay Flowers. They had limited amount of picks, so they took Zay Flowers. He was the only receiver. But think about undrafted free agency. When that hit, they brought in Dante Demas, big body receiver. They signed Laquan Treadwell, big body receiver, right? Think about the body types that they brought in.
Mm-hmm.
They're clearly looking for something.
And there was the report as well from ESPN about them also looking for an X receiver, and that was 4 or 5. So
right. So that to me that feels like Keon at 6'3.5" more than it does Legette, who's at like what is he? 6'2"?
I think he's 6 foot like 1.75.
Change, right? So I feel like it's more Coleman. Plus, I also feel like Coleman has a better floor. I think Legette is still kind of developing. Like he really just kind of really came on last year, and I think he has the ability to like if he reaches his potential, man, we might be talking about a star in the league. But I think Keon Coleman has some of that as well. I do think Legette is faster, but like you said, Coleman's not slow by any means. I mean, the dude ran punts for crying out loud. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. And Keon does have a lot of similarities with Dez Bryant as well. I think that's but I think I'm gonna go in a different direction here. I think it's just the way sometimes when I view these prospects is the exciting thing with me with Legette is that to your point He just came on. He just started becoming good. So the projection, and not to say projecting, Keon obviously, in my opinion, would be a better pro than college player. But with
Right.
with Leggett, I think if you're like projecting the two, I feel like Leggett's more like that, like more like almost like when he's like when you think I'm projecting, I feel like
Yeah.
Keon's more of like a what I mean. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I just feel like Leggett, if his breakout season was what he had last year, and there's a lot of great tape out there. How much better can you get? Like I
Right.
think you can get a lot better. I
Right.
think he can get a lot better,
Right. You feel
and
like
I
he's
think
just
he's
scratching the
he's
surface of
like
what he could be? You
good.
feel you feel like he's just scratching the surface of what he could potentially be.
Right, and I think, and that's not to say Keon's maxed out. I don't think Keon's maxed out at all. I think Keon is already a great player.
Who's younger? Who's
But
younger? Who's younger? Is it
I think Keon might be younger.
okay.
Don't quote me on that though.
All right, so Leggett is 23 and Keon Coleman is 20.
Yeah, so that also plays into it. That also plays
Yeah.
into it because a
Wow.
lot of receiver success in the NFL and more so draft success has happened when the player happened to be younger.
Yeah.
Um,
20 years old. Wow.
that just threw a wrench into my thinking because I'm like, well,
Wow. I didn't know he was 20 years old. I thought
I
he
knew
was.
he was young, but I thought he was
Yeah.
like 21 and like almost turning 22. I didn't think he was
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, I have to stick to my board.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Leggett. I have to stick to my board. I have Leggett as the 35th player and Keon as the 43rd. So I have to stick to my board. And that 20-year-old thing is probably gonna come to bite me once we ever look back at this.
Right.
Because 20 years old, man, you're at least in your brain, you're not even scratching the surface. You know what
Not
I
even
mean?
scratching it. Like he don't even know
Me 1 year ago, I'm like, yeah, absolutely not.
bro,
But yeah,
he doesn't even know what he doesn't know yet. You know what I mean? Like he's
yeah,
just young.
exactly. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Leggett here, and
Yeah, he says Yuri for president. All right, we're going Xavier Leggett. Oh man, hey, if you would have picked Coleman, DMV might have just unfollowed you.
I don't even know if he follows me. He might.
All right, so we're on the clock again at 62, and oh yeah, we're on the clock again at 62. All right, so it's on me. Obviously, we got to take a tackle. I mean, that's just kind of, do we even have to,
Yeah.
So I love Kieran Amagaji and I love Brandon Coleman. I think Kieran Amagaji is a dancing bear. I just love the way he pulls. I like the way his feet. He's really, light on his feet for a big guy. He's got good hand placement, and I think he's still developing. Brandon Coleman is a dog, though. Brandon Coleman is a guy that can play guard or tackle. I think Kieran could as well. I think Brandon Coleman could play inside, outside. He's got versatility. He's got pretty good length. Let's check out his height here. He is 6'6", 320. Whereas Kieran is
6'5".
6'5", 318. So yeah, they're about the same exact size actually. Which one of these guys do you like more?
So I'm gonna go with Kieran, and that's because I did a pod back with Ian Cummings, PFN Network, and the thing with Kieran, I feel like to me, is he is kind of like a creative tackle. He has 36-inch arms. And he not only does he have that, and of course arm length discussion, whatever, but he also the way he deploys that, the way he extends and uses that leverage to his advantage in the run game and as a pass protector. And to your point, he is a dancing bear. And of course, he goes to Yale. He doesn't go to Alabama. Doesn't go to some big college.
Right.
And you can take that into account. But he dominated. I mean, he that last year, man, he dominated. And my draft philosophy is, if their best year was their last year, sometimes I feel like it's worth the bet.
I mean, and he's
rising
smart,
player.
right? You know he can pick up whatever you put down because he's smart.
Yeah,
he went to Yale.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So it won't be that hard of a transition. All right, so we're gonna go Kieran Amagaji with our second pick. All right, so Yuri, you're back up, and we are at our third round pick 77, which we got from Vegas. Vegas, for people who are just tuning in, Vegas traded up to pick 30 to pick Michael Penix, and we went back to pick 44. We just picked 62, so right now we have Xavier Legette, and we have Kieran Amagaji from Yale to tackle, and now Yuri is back up with our third round pick 77 in the trade that we got from Vegas. And what do you think about what position you think about going here?
Well, the fact that those two receivers are available is kind of tempting, but I'm gonna let temptation.
Burton and Pez, yeah, that's crazy, right?
I'm gonna let the temptation subside. I want to look at the corners and just take a little gaze at what's going on there. Right. You got Kyrie Jackson, Renardo Green, Kalen Carson. I mean, I like Renardo Green a lot.
I do. Do you think he's a nickel, or do you think he can play outside?
I think you can make him work on the outside. I think you can make him work on the outside. Let's.
Are you on the thinking that safety is an underrated position of need?
I am. Yeah. I am indeed. Yeah. If Jaden Hicks was available, I would probably take him right here.
Let me see if he's there. Oh, Kalen Bullock. I love Kalen Bullock.
Yeah, I love Kalen Bullock's ability to play split safety.
He can play that Geno Stone role perfectly.
Yeah. What about the edge group?
Yeah, let's see it. Because this group is thin. So if you don't get one like the first 3 rounds, you might as well forget about it. All right. So I love Xavier Thomas. He kind of reminds me of what's his name? Not Brock. Tyus Bowser. He kind of gives me Tyus Bowser vibes. Right. He's a better pass rusher. I do like Austin Booker. He's lengthy, long guy. He's got to put on some weight, but he's got some tools. He's definitely got some tools. Kind of reminds me of Alden Smith when he first came out of Missouri.
Right.
I know you had Mo Kamara on your list. I love Mo Kamara.
Yeah, I think it is just a little.
It's too early for him. Yeah, I feel like he's like a baby James Harrison. That's what he reminds me of. Just short, stout, but like hella physical. Can set the edge in the run game, and he has a crazy motor. The D line, the interior. I know it's not a need, but
give me one. I'm gonna use the bathroom quick. Give me one. Okay, minute, sorry.
No worries. So Ravens flock. What we thinking? He said Bucky Irvin. This is way too high for Bucky Irvin. We're in the third round, buddy. I don't think we're going Bucky Irvin here. What do you guys think about what we did so far? So far, we got Xavier Legette and we got Kieran Imagaji, tackle from Yale. So wide receivers filled, tackles filled, and we picked up extra picks because we traded out of the first round. How y'all think we're doing so far? Hey, Eric, I didn't understand your question. You said, how is someone who is a Garrett Wilson clone safe? I think that he isn't in the big 3 bias. I'm not understanding. Who are you talking about? All right. My co-host.
So let's take a look at the interior offensive line.
And yeah, that's a need too, obviously.
Take a look at that.
McCormick. I like both of them at the top. I like Mahogany too. You like Mahogany?
Yeah, I like Mahogany, but
I really like BB and McCormick is.
Yeah, I'm looking at BB, and I don't think I can look away. Because I mean, you have Ben Cleveland, but he's on an expiring contract, and BB's also played tackle as well. I don't think he'll play in the NFL, but he has played tackle, and if you need him to play there in a pinch.
He's 6'4". I didn't know he was 6'4". I thought he was shorter. That's pretty.
I mean,
good.
we're.
Do you think we could? We got 2 third-round picks. Do you think we can hold off and get the guard, or because these guys are 93, 95, we at 77?
Yeah, I mean, you could, man, but those 2 receivers being there is ridiculous, and
I know, that's crazy. You think the Ravens would double dip? Like, I don't think they would. Maybe they would. I don't think they would double dip this early, but I think they would double dip.
Well, I mean, they are a BPA team. I mean, if the best player available now.
Now I don't think they would touch
within
this
reason
because from what I heard, he has some.
Yeah, no, I don't think Burt. I think I'm only looking at Walker. I wouldn't take Burt just because of the off the field concerns. It wouldn't be realistic.
Yeah.
But honestly,
or do we go Bullock? Do we go to safety?
I'm gonna stick to my board. I'm gonna go BB here.
All right.
I have him higher rated than some of the other guys on the board. Bullock is close to him though. Bullock is very close, but I just think.
I'm not mad at all because I'm thinking BB and Voorhees could be your future guard tandem for years. Maybe you let Cleveland just run play the guard position this year, and because he's on the contract year, right? The Ravens,
right.
They motto, let him play. Hopefully he plays well. He gets paid, and then we get a comp pick, and then Cooper BB is your guard for the next 10 years.
Right.
So you're gonna go BB?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. All right, I think with this next third round pick, we gotta go corner. Oh, Caleb Bullock still there.
It's good. Any defense is really good.
Bullock is still there. This is wow. Okay, I didn't think Bullock would still be there at this point.
In the corner,
I like Bullock more than I like Carson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't go corner. The corners are like I could wait on that at this point. Let's check the edge rushers out. Mo Kamara is still there.
I still think we can wait on him just a tiny
bit. Yeah, we can wait on him. It's too early. Would I be crazy if I took Bullock here?
No, not at all. I think I think safety's. They have two on the roster.
Yeah, right. They got 2 on the roster, and then I think Kyle Hamilton. I think next year they're going to have to pay Kyle. Next year will be the first year he's eligible for a new contract.
Right.
And to me, a guy like that, you pay early rather than late because the more all pros he gets, the higher the price becomes. Right. So pay him early. All right, I'm going to take Caleb Bullock here. Sweating Beaks. Sweating Beaks is crazy. He said Sweating Beaks. Just those two names together sound crazy. Yeah. All right, so we're back up at pick 113. Still some good options. Oh, Sweat is still there. That's crazy.
Nah, the DUI, he's probably off the board.
Yeah, the DUI, right? So yeah, but it's not a domestic violence. They've had guys with DUIs. Do you think they would take him off the board completely?
Yeah, I would. I feel like in the past they probably have taken people off for less.
So we thinking corner now?
Let's take a little look at edge.
Kamara. See if Kamara's still there.
Kamara's still there.
Oh, right at the top.
Yeah,
if you don't take him down, you might not get him.
Yeah, I think we're gonna take Kamara. It gives you something else that they don't have in the edge room, and they could certainly use a corner. But in my perfect world is the Ravenstein, Stephon Gilmore.
I feel like there's still so many good options in free agency. I think you don't have to reach for a certain position. Outside of offensive line, ain't no lineman really like that. I do like the idea of maybe getting Mekhi Becton after the draft.
Yeah.
But, yeah. All right, let's go Kamara here. I think he fits play like a Raven. All right. Now it's up to me, and I ain't gonna lie. I'm tempted to just take Braylon Allen right here.
Right.
And let him back up Derrick Henry for 2 years and then become the guy. He's so young. I think he just turned 20.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Would that be crazy if I took Braylon or?
I don't think it's crazy at all. You can also consider a corner.
Yeah.
I love Drain.
I do. I like Drain.
Cam Hart's another one, maybe a little more developmental.
Yep. Cam Hart.
Richardson as well is there, so you can go. This is really like the BPA pick. Like, I think we hit most of our needs really.
Right.
Now we can, maybe you want to double dip a tackle. There's certainly a lot of ideas available here.
Well, I know EDC said they're definitely going to look to draft a running back, and now with the draft capital, to me, this draft is all about quality over quantity. And if you can get a guy like Braylon Allen, at this point in the draft, I think you just gotta do it, right? Like, I mean, I like Will Shipley, but I like Allen better. I think Allen will be the perfect guy to study behind Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Very similar body styles, and like that's how identity, right? Like they're gonna want to keep the stable full at that position. Real quick, let me look at receiver though, just to see if anything fell. No, I like some of these guys later, but nah. All right, so I'm gonna take Braylon Allen. I just think the value's too good at that point. He's he's the top player overall on the board. So
yeah.
I like what we got. I like what we're doing so far. This is I would be very happy if the draft went like
so
this.
I'm running the pickup already for Richardson, corner out of Mississippi State.
Yep. You
just talked
about.
Yeah, the developmental upside is it's there, and it's been a while since they've really drafted someone in the fourth or fifth round that has the size and he runs a 4.3. He's got the size profile and the speed profile. So I mean it's there. It really is there for me.
6'2", 166 and runs a 4.3. Sounds like a Raven to me. Ravens flock, what do y'all think? This would be a home run still right here in the round 5 to be able to get a guy like that. Let's go.
Now, of course, when draft day comes around and everyone's like, "Who is this guy?" When he goes to pick like 70, it's like, well,
right.
Just remember, we said it here first.
We said it here first. You know, it's the first time you heard how good this kid is. So, all right. So now, I think it's time to start maybe double dipping into some positions.
Yeah,
that we've already filled. So, like, I like Glaze.
Yeah, I like Glaze here as well.
I do like Glaze. Let's take a look at the interior, like, because I think that the interior guys are deeper than the tackles. I mean, we don't have a backup center. A guy like Drake Nugent, or Dylan McMahon would be solid because they let Sam Mustipher walk, and the guys we just drafted, none of them really play center. Like BB is not a center,
right?
And Kieran Magaji is not a center either. And so they really kind of need. I mean, I guess we got Makari, but I don't really like Makari at center. So we could go back up center here, or we could go Washington. Wide receivers are a little thin.
Yeah, I like Bob Means out of Pittsburgh. Jason put me on him, and I certainly another. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, this is obviously your pick, but he's another X-style receiver that can really fill that void at least throw another dart at it.
I do like Bud Means. He's solid. I was looking at tight ends because I just got this feeling, especially if they trade back and get more picks, a tight end is definitely getting drafted. They just love tight ends and they just can't stop drafting them.
I hope not.
I know, but if they draft one, that tells me someone is moving on very soon. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. What about backup quarterback? I mean, I don't really like the room right now. Josh Johnson is whatever, and then I'm not even sure Malik. What's his name? Malik
Cunningham.
Yeah, I don't think he's a quarterback. I think he's just like a weapon athlete.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously this is your pick, but I would probably double dip with Glaze here and throw another dart out there. I mean, it's a 7th round pick. You're not, if he ends up not hitting, you cut him. It's not going to cost you anything. Obviously this is your pick, so I don't want to.
I like Glaze. He's a Terp too, so why not? Let's go with Delmar Glaze. He's a Terp, so I can't go wrong with the Terps. All right, here we go. We're back on the clock at 2:28, and wow, Joe Milton is there, still there.
I know, and but the thing that's bothering me is James Williams is there.
Yeah, that's crazy. James Williams probably won't be here in the round 7. I can assure you.
Yeah, but I mean, like we said earlier, they have 2 safeties on the roster. We got a third. A fourth, they usually carry 4 or 5 safeties. So I mean, you go another safety here. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Some people even think he can be a linebacker. So he's kind of like a hybrid.
Yeah, and I think the versatility of him is another thing that can add to the defense. We already got Kamara. We have a corner. We have 3 linemen. This is just like a best player available situation where I see them just taking James Williams and like, you know what, we'll make him in. We'll make him into what we need to make him into be.
Okay.
So I
That's
think
it.
we could James
Anything
Williams here.
interior D line? No.
I do like Lovett though. I think Lovett's a nice option, but I wouldn't given our needs. I think the defensive line group is just
It's
unless
solid.
it's someone you can't pass up on. I feel like it is what it is at this point.
Okay, James Williams. I mean, Marcus Williams also has had issues staying healthy too. So
Yeah, for sure. So
and you can't count on Darius Washington. He's always hurt as well.
yeah.
So yeah, James Williams feels like a good pick there. All right, looks like this is our last pick. I'm gonna take Joe Milton. Why not? Developmental quarterback.
I love Joe Milton so much. I really do.
Yeah,
I hope someone fixes him. I really do.
Bro,
And I hope
his
it's
arm is he can make every single throw. He just needs all the other stuff, right? Like he needs something to help tear down and rebuild his mechanics. His footwork needs work. But his arm is unquestionable. Like the minute he gets drafted into the NFL, he's going to have one of the strongest arms in the league.
Yeah,
so,
without a doubt.
I'm gonna take Joe Milton here, developmental quarterback. Put him in that room, and hopefully in 3 or 4 years, you got something. There you go. Wow, and there you have it, Draft Nerds, and my boy Yuri, collaborative mock draft. Tell us how you think we did. What did PFF give? They gave us a B plus. But that's because we didn't take who they wanted us to take.
Who they wanted to take? Troy Franklin? Yeah,
no.
no.
Take Troy Franklin over Leggett. I wouldn't. I like Troy Franklin, but no, I'm not taking him over Leggett. To me, this is a great draft. I'm going to post it on Twitter, and so everybody can share it and everything like that. But yeah, let's do a recap of this draft real quick, Yuri. What do you think? Like if it laid out like this, you know, how pleased would you be?
I'd be pretty happy. I mean, sometimes the board doesn't fall perfectly. Like there wasn't like what I was saying, like Jaden Hicks at 77. Like not all the time the players you want are gonna just fall the way you want. Yeah. And sometimes you have to fill the needs, and I feel like we did a really good job together collaboratively of filling the needs. We got the X receiver, we got the developmental left tackle who can slide inside the left guard if you need him. Yep. We got a pure guard who can future-proof the position. We got a safety that can play Geno Stone's role. We got an edge that we don't have currently in the room. We don't have a jacked up 6'1" guy who plays with his hair on fire. We don't have that. That guy's ridiculous football player. But then we got a running back of the future. We got a developmental corner to go along with the other ones we have, and I feel like this one has a little more upside. Because Armour Davis is not tall or fast. He's fast, but he's not 4.3 fast. Right. And then
also injury prone. Like
yeah, exactly. And then we have with those last 3 picks, really developmental pieces where they're dart throws, but they're good ones. In my opinion, they're pretty good ones. I have a 4th round grade on Glazed. I have a late 4th on Williams and Joe Milton. He's almost like you can't even put a grade on him. You just say throw the pick, and why not? Throw the pick at him and just see what happens. So
I agree. So I'm gonna start from the bottom. Joe Milton, I think if you can get him in the round 7, I mean he is a really good developmental quarterback. Like I love quarterbacks. I coach, and the position I coach the most. I do head coaching and all that, but the position I coach the most is quarterbacks. I love quarterbacks. I love breaking them down, and a good quarterback coach would love to get their hands on Joe Milton because the thing that he has you can't teach, right? You can't teach a dude who can make every throw on the field, has a rocket arm, and it's just not a throw he just can't make. All the other stuff you can build. You can build the footwork. You can build, the mechanics from where you want him to hold the ball at and where you want his release point to be. You can help him with film study, speed up his decision making and things like that. But what you can't teach is that arm strength, and he has it in spades. James Williams, I feel like year 1, he's going to be a special teams demon, right? And with the new rules in place, there's going to be more linebackers, safeties, corners, running backs, receivers on the kickoff team. And I think he'll be a special teams demon. Delmar Glaze kind of reminds me of remember Jared Gaither back in the day.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of a Jared Gaither. You kind of get him in. He has a lot of physical traits, and you just kind of see how he develops. DeCamarion Richardson, like you said, developmental corner who has some traits that you can develop. And then, again, being in that room with all that talent, like Marlon and Brandon and Kyle and Mark, like just being around all of those guys, you just can't help but get better, right? Braylon Allen is the perfect clone behind Derrick Henry. He's the perfect guy to, hey, you watch that guy, you mimic that guy, and then when your time comes, we're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you ball out. Muhammad Kamara, again, like I said, he's James Harrison light, right? Like he's like baby James Harrison, strong at the point of attack, can stop the run, and has an relentless motor. Kalen Bullock, I love, has ball skills, rangy. To me, I feel like the future would be him and Kyle Hamilton back there. But at least for 1 year, you'll have Marcus Williams, Kalen Bullock, and Kyle Hamilton. And to me, that's the best safety core in the league. Cooper Beebe, 10-year starter. Enough said. Kieran Magaji, high upside tackle, dancing bear who can move and can possibly be your left tackle in the future. But I know for a fact he can be your right tackle. And then Xavier Legette, the big body X that runs a 4.3 that we haven't had, that we've been looking for a very long time. And Legette, Zay Flowers, and Bateman or Aguilar, along with the tight ends and the run. I mean, man, forget it. We would have an unbelievable offense. So I absolutely love the collaborative mock that we just did. Real quick, Yuri, before I let you go, what's your take on Bateman? What do you think is going? I figured I'll save that one for last.
What's my take on him? Well, real quick, just to put a bow on the draft with all those guys. I feel like with all those guys, all of them in a way have something you can't teach. Yeah. All those guys have traits that you can't teach. That when they were born as a baby, they had those, and as time went on and they grew, they developed those. And so, with Legette, we talked about the size speed combination. With Amagaja, you have the length and the power combination with Bebe. Same thing. Bullock, the instincts. Kamara, the just relentless motor. You pointed out. Braylon Allen, the size, physicality. Richardson, the speed, length, combination, height. And then Williams as well, and Milton, both just more guys that are just. I love drafts like that. I really do. I mean, if this draft ends up being a complete wash, I would the next cycle around, I'd probably do it again and be like, well, we're gonna take the guys who have things that other people, no matter how long they work, how hard they try, they'll never have those things, and those are players I'll bet on. But the wrap it up, with Bateman, what do I think happens? Well, I really do think it's like the Queen situation where they try to trade Queen twice, and so it never ended up coming to fruition because the compensation you're getting for him really wasn't worth letting go of the player. You're like, well, at that point, we'll just keep him. Yeah. So what do I think happens? I think he's gonna get traded. Nothing from what I've heard. One's a rumor, three's a story. Right. I have three, and all three say the same thing. So I just have to. And all three, and in times past have never let me down. I can go name by name of people who the Ravens are interested in. That all three has came out, and all three of those people that I talked to confirmed. So, I feel like I would, if I had to put a percentage to it, I would say 70%. He's traded, 30% he's kept. But yet again, like the Queen situation, sometimes it just ends up working out where we all get to sing songs together and stay together and forgive each other and forgive past transgressions and all those things. But yeah, I mean, I would like to keep him. I certainly wouldn't want him traded, unless it was in a situation where they had they drafted two receivers in the top 100.
Yeah.
Like that, like what we had earlier. Like if they just ended up finding so good of a receiver to at least try and replicate his production, I'm like, well, at that point, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if they only end up drafting one receiver in those top 3 rounds, I think it's still worth it to keep him and at least see if he gives you anything. If he gives you something, and you don't pick up his 5th-year option, then you get a comp pick back, and that's just the way it goes. Even with if they traded for Ayuk, I wouldn't want to trade Bateman away in an Ayuk situation because I feel like you need 3 good receivers to start your core, and that's not the disrespect Nelson Aguilar, but to be quite frank, he's a wide receiver 4. He's always been a wide receiver 4,
Right.
and I don't want him to be wide receiver 3. Even if we upgrade wide receiver 1, I think the best offense is being multiple. And at least in my eyes, the vision right now is to keep Bateman around and at least see if he gives you something. I mean, if he doesn't, so be it. If you're what are we going to get in return? A 5th-round pick.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's kind of where I stand on it. I think he's traded. But what my personal feelings would say is I don't know, or what I think would happen is I think he's traded, but in reality, I don't think he's going to be traded because I don't think the market's going to really drum up enough interest unless they got some sort of pick swap going and they sweet
Unless
talk
they
the team.
really wanted to get rid of him, or
Or he really wanted to go.
he asked for a trade, and we haven't heard about it yet. Okay, man. I mean, I'm with you. I've heard a lot from people I know as well that he could possibly be moved.
Well, Cole was on here last week saying,
Yeah, he said the same thing. Yep, he said the
like
same
when
thing.
I was saying, I'm like, apparently
Yep.
I'm breaking news. It's like,
Yep.
wow,
And then you got to think about it too. The Ravens have been flirting with veteran wide receivers during the offseason, right? They brought in Michael Gallup. They brought in Josh Reynolds. When you're doing that, knowing that you're going into a draft that's loaded at the position, it makes you think: Are they looking for 2 new wide receivers instead of 1?
right.
And so. And then EDC's been really hyping up Bateman this offseason, and that's typically what you do when you got a for sale sign.
When you're selling a house, you don't
right.
tell you tell the people about the house. When you're not trying to sell a house, you don't tell anybody about the house.
Exactly. You want people to know, like, hey, this is a great house. We believe in this house. We think it has a lot of upside.
Exactly. Yeah. When you're selling the house, you're going to the fireplace. Like, you don't tell them the fireplace doesn't work. You just say, yeah, we got a fireplace.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's kind of that's what I'm starting to feel like he's doing. He's telling we got this nice, look at this glass chandelier. It comes with the house. You guys can have it. You see the big space in the living room. That custom window right there. No, you guys can have it, man. You guys can have it. I know I know you like it. Here, we'll even throw in this with you and that. Yeah. And they're like, we're ignoring the fact that the wood on the floor is rotted in the corner, and we're ignoring the fact that's not to say.
And by the time you buy it, it's your problem. So
exactly, and that's not to say he's a problem, but you know what I mean. Like it's the art of the deal. It's the art of selling something up more than it's really worth in terms of value. So I feel like that's kind of what he's doing right now. And we'll see. Well, I've been wrong. There's been times that he's hyped up a player in the past, and I think Brandon Stevens is probably a good example of someone he's probably hyped up in the past. He said, I believe in, and then that player ends up being good. He said the same thing about
Hollywood. I mean, he said he was going to pick up Hollywood's 5th-year option and then traded him. So
it's
Yep. Well, Yuri, I thank you so much, man. This was a blast. We definitely have to do it again. We will. I will be doing a live stream from the day of the draft. Actually, all 3 days, but particularly more day 1 and day 2. So if you're not doing anything, man, come by and let's talk about some of the picks as they happen in real time. But we definitely got to do this again sometime. This was awesome. Thank you for everybody who tuned in to this episode. It's a great mock. The mock will be posted, you guys, on Twitter, so you will be able to, or X, whatever you want. So you'll be able to share it and critique it. Tell us if you like it. Tell us if you hated it. I thought it was a really good mock, and if, like you said, if this is chalk, man, sign me up. I'm happy because that means they went for high upside, but they also filled a lot of needs, and that's what you want in any draft. Yuri, go ahead, plug. What do you got coming up? What's some things you got coming up? What people can find you? I know you guys have a podcast and everything like that. So go ahead, plug your stuff.
Yeah, so Ravens Way Podcast on Twitter. We will be live with Jason Huddled Up Films on Thursday and Friday. More focused on Thursday, definitely Friday on and off. I'll probably be hopping around a couple streams, hopping on Matt's stream, hopping on other people's streams, just going around, making my rounds, talking to everybody, just having a good time with the draft. And yeah, I mean, once the off season hits the dead point, we'll probably go, nice little sabbatical and enjoy the training camp and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yuri _Ravens on Twitter, and obviously everyone knows Voss Beatdown as well on Twitter, my co-host of the Ravens Way podcast. Matt, I appreciate you having me on. This was really fun. I always love talking draft with you. Because I feel like a lot of the times with some people prospects, there's a cannot do and can do, when it's more of what can he do and how does that impact the NFL. So
agree. Shout out to Voss too, man. That's my guy.
Yeah.
He has his own unique ideas of how to team build, which is very interesting, and it's always good to hear different things, right? And so this was really fun, man. And DMV says Yuri and Voss, a great listen. Yeah, I agree. I concur. Great listen, man. Those guys know their stuff, and they bring a unique perspective. Like Yuri said when we first started, it's not groupthink, right? They have their own ideas and thoughts about how you should build a team and the way that they would like to see the Ravens go. And the Ravens have adopted some of those ideas too over the years, as you guys have mentioned things of positional value stuff and like that. I know Voss is a really big guy on positional value, and so make sure you guys give them a follow. Make sure you give them a listen when they're going live and things like that. And other than that, man, Yuri, I will see you on Thursday. Enjoy the draft, and to everybody out there, thank you for listening. And till next time, we out.